Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Story Time with Tim. For this week's story, I'm again going back into my growing up years, but this one takes place at the very end of that. This is my first year of Bible college, and it involves a moment of FBSOP, which is fly by seat of pants. Every so often, I do have a strong dose of spontaneity that happens, and this is one of those episodes. So it begins with one of my friends who wanted to get his ear pierced, and he was talking about it. He had talked about it a little bit, like kind of in a, "Hey, what do you think?" That kind of a way, But then I could tell after a little bit that it was something he actually really did want to do. But he was kind of, he was being cautious about it a little bit, at least in that moment. And so me, in my moment of FBSOP, said, "Hey, let's go do this." So we did. We went out and we got our ears pierced. And we were pretty proud of ourselves. We came back and we felt like we had done something good. We'd accomplished something of value and substance in our lives, or not. I'm not sure. But we came back and that's what happened. So that was that moment for me. And then what makes it a little bit more interesting is that in our family, we would have grandma, this is from my mom's side, grandma over for dinner every Monday night. And the school I was going to is in the town I grew up in, and so I would join in on those dinners. So, Mom, that particular night, I think, was demonstrating a combination of wisdom and a little bit of anxiousness, perhaps. She desired, I believe, to delay the discovery on my grandmother's part of me having an earring. And I don't know, but I have it on questionable authority that Mom may also have been praying fervently that Grandma would have a case of selective blindness. But anyways, as it turned out, we sat down and Mom was trying to make it so that my earring wouldn't be in Grandma's view as we're sitting and having dinner together. But I also have a little bit of a contrarian button pusher side to me, and as it turned out, Grandma sat on my left-hand side. By the way, some of you are hearing this and you're like, "Wait, Tim wore an earring?" Yep, I wore an earring. So for those of you who haven't noticed, there's the evidence. Yes, I used to have an earring. Anyways, I sat beside Grandma. We prayed for the meal, and we got into the meal. We're kind of chowing down a little bit, but early in the going. Grandma looks over. She sees it, and she just, in a combination of disgust and surprise, looks at me and says, "Tim, you have an earring, but you're a man." And we all kind of lose it. We're laughing, and I think it was more funny to us than it was to her. But she got through it. She adjusted. She continued to treat me nicely after that. But it was kind of one of those moments, and it was pretty fun. So after that, I continued to wear my earring. And what I noticed is that for most people, I kind of got different responses. For some people, it was no big deal. In fact, from some people's perspective, like, "Hey, why don't you have more?" For some people, it was like, "Oh, hey, that's kind of cool," or whatever. And then for some people, it seemed like it was actually a little bit of a problem. And especially as I thought about wanting to be in ministry, I recognized that for many of the people in my context, the people that I would be serving, the earring was actually going to get in the way. It was one of those things that certainly in that time and place just would have been a stumbling block, something that prevented people from hearing or seeing me as anything more than somebody who maybe made a rash decision at some point in his life. And I think that people of every generation are capable of getting past that, but still it was something that was in the way. And so I chose to take it out, to remove it, to just not have it be a part of my life. By the way, there was kind of another season, so I had it out for a while. I had it back in for another little bit, but I chose to set it aside. I wanted to share with you a little bit from Romans 14. Paul talks about kind of a similar idea. He says, "Accept the one whose faith is weak, without quarreling over disputable matters. One person's faith allows them to eat anything, but another, whose faith is weak, eats only vegetables. The one who eats everything must not treat with contempt the one who does not. And the one who does not eat everything must not judge the one who does, for God has accepted them." And when I read that, I'm reminded that as a believer, as somebody who follows Jesus, that I need to think about the other people in my life who maybe have a different viewpoint on a particular issue. Paul talks about don't quarrel over disputable matters. Whatever those might be, they're disputable because people care about them, but maybe they're not as essential as we sometimes think they might be. And so there's a call here for a coming together, not just a passiveness, but a coming together, a recognition that other people matter to God, that God accepts them as they are, and we need to heed that and consider that. So I've been thinking about that as I've just kind of been perceiving and participating in this COVID-19 craziness that we're all a part of right now. And there's a place there where I think all of us struggle a little bit with judgmentalism. We look at the person who apparently is buying too much stuff, toilet paper in particular. We think about the response from the government or our response to the government, and it's easy for that judgmentalism to slip in for all of us. The call here, though, is for us to think about more than just ourselves. It's not just about our freedom. It's about caring for those who are around us. Paul talks about this just a little further down in verses 7 and 8. He says, "For none of us lives for ourselves alone, and none of us dies for ourselves alone. This is a together thing. If we live for the Lord, and if we die for the Lord. So whether we live or die, we belong to the Lord." So I hope that those words encourage you and challenge you a little bit as we go through this together. And I hope that you also have moments of spontaneity, because those are fun. Have a great day.